Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this is the third video in learning kind of just the ins and outs of how Buffalo works. So I'm not necessarily building anything in particular, just kind of walking you through the features and how they work so you can build whatever you want. So today we're going to talk about models and basically adding actual tables to your database so you have data you can use. So first we're just going to talk about just creating a model and migrating it. That's going to be sort of the goal for this video. So I turned off my server. Okay, I'm just make sure it's turned off. Okay, and I'm gonna close my actions folder. I don't need that right now. Just close all these folders. We're gonna be working out of this models folder. Okay. Now what we're gonna do is first create a new model. So we're gonna do soda. Basically what you do is you do buffalo pop. So basically it uses what's called soda under the hood. Soda is an ORM. So this pop wraps soda under the command pop. Get it? Soda pop. So any soda command, if you've ever used soda on its own, can be used by using the term buffalo pop. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to generate a new model. Okay, and let's just take a look. Let's do a help flag just to see what the different commands are. Cool. So here we can see here, aliases generate. Okay, and we're going to either create a model. Okay, we can generate some migrations. So fizz. Okay, now if you wanted to, by default there's already a database.yaml file when you first start up your project, but if you needed a new one, a fresh one, you can just do that config command, generate a config. Okay, and let's actually walk through that for a quick second. So mine is by default configured for Postgres. And the way it works is this is your development server. Okay, but you might also want to have a test environment and a production environment. Okay, which basically connects to it purely via URL. Okay, which basically I'll walk through in a second. But notice this command here. This is something you can use throughout all of Buffalo. Environment or. What this means is it'll look to see if in your environmental variables there's a variable by this name. Okay, if there isn't, then it will just use this value. That's what that means. Okay, cool. And again, this is just a Postgres URL. So basically the way this reads is, the type of database, the user password, which that technically would be wrong, but I'm not using either of these databases right now. We're going to just be working purely out of this development database. The IP address, which again, if you're using Postgres locally, will be this. The database you're connecting to. And then you just have to have this kind of extra little tag here. So that way it works locally, because it'll be like, where's SSL if you don't have that. Cool. So that's that, and you can configure it for other databases. Just read the documentation and either the Go documentation or the Soda documentation to figure out how to configure this database.yaml to work with whatever database you're choosing to work with. If you work with like a MySQL or whatever. Cool. So we did that. Let's keep looking through here. Fizz, again, that's up and down migrations using Fizz. Now what migrations are is once we create our models, we're not going to go into our database and actually add these tables and subtract these tables, alter these tables. All that SQL stuff, Soda is going to do for us. That's the whole benefit of an ORM, an object relationship manager. They do all the database stuff for us. So we're going to define them in Go language, what we want to happen, and then it'll make it happen. So once we create the model, so we'll use this command here to create the model. Once we're done doing that, later on we'll have to use this command to generate the migration files that will be run to update the database. Okay, and then this is if you wanted to create up and down migrations using SQL commands directly. Okay, and it'll just generate those files where needed. Okay, and you see there's any other useful flags here. Help for generate, use debug verbose, and yeah, nothing too interesting. So okay, generate model. So let's do that. Let's generate a model, and it probably wants me to put in a name. Okay, yep, name, and then here's just more flags. Generate model person. Okay, so see, it generated all these files. Okay, Alex Merced, development, practice, backend, Buffalo, T, models, so it's in the models folder. Okay, and then we see we have this new file. Okay, so this is just basically the basics of the struct. Now we can just add what we want, and again I'm just going to stick to what we did before: name, which is a string, age, which is a integer, and you can keep all this other created at. And there's some syntax here. Again, you can read the documentation for exactly what syntax you want to add for different types of fields. Okay. Cool. Although I can just do that for those. And essentially what this is saying is that for JSON, so what we're creating, let's just explain what this means. Okay, we're creating a field in the struct called ID that's of a type user ID. Okay, that's universal user ID. Now in JSON, so when we're sending JSON data, this field will be referred to as ID lowercase, and in the database field will be ID lowercase. Okay, and vice versa. So if I wanted to be specific and make sure that this appears in a certain way in JSON data and a certain way in the database, I can then go in here and be like, okay, and this is because again everything has to be uppercase as we saw in the last video. I could sit there and do this, so that way in the table and when I send JSON data, it's lowercase. So that way people don't have to worry about casing when they receive the data or work with the data. So I could do that. Okay. Let's see here. String JSON Marshall. Don't need to touch that. P person. I think that's just the stringify. A string return string JP. Yeah, just basically stringifies it. People is not required by pop and may be deleted. Okay, this is just creating a people person. That's nice that I actually recognize the plural of people. Okay, so it's creating basically a interface for people so that way we can hold multiple people. So it's just saying that there's a type called people and it's an array of persons. String is not required by pop and may be deleted. This is so you can stringify a person. Validate gets run every time you call pop.validate. This is just to validate it. These are just validators. Okay, that all looks good to me. Okay. And what I do want to do though is get rid of that struct from earlier in my assets, actions. Action, I think it's in, right? Oh no, this is the wrong project. T. Actions, handler.go is where we put it, and we're going to get rid of this person. Although it shouldn't collide because the new one is capital person, but we will see. Okay, cool. So now we've created our models file. Cool. And this is just a test file, so you can create like tests. Okay. And basically what you do here is you write a situation, you'd make a test. I wouldn't worry about this right now. We may revisit this later on. Okay, and the next thing we need to look at is migrations. So we're going to go to our migrations folder, and we'll see that it also created us a couple migration files. So we're going to go through these, and you see one has the name up, and the other one has the name down. Okay, so basically if you ever wanted to get rid of people, you would run this migration file, and if you ever wanted to put up and add the table, it would do this. Okay, so there is the migration file. Although T column IUID primary to. Okay, it doesn't. I don't see the fields that we created, so I think we need to update that. Okay, so we're gonna have to add those lines ourselves. So we only added really 2 columns. So it's T dot column. So we're adding a column to our database. called name. And again, we can do it lowercase because we mapped it in our model that in the database is going to be a lowercase name. So that way it knows, okay, this struct goes with this struct field goes with this field in the database. That's why we had to create the model first. So the first is the name of the field. The second is the type, which is just going to be a string. And then we put an empty object, just because that would be, technically you can do configurations like default and other things in there, minimum, maximum, all sorts of things. This is referred to as fizz. Okay, this is part of the soda ORM, which is labeled pop in Go. And basically you can learn the fizz language. It's in the docs. They have a section on fizz, so you can see sort of what the syntax here, but this is the basic idea. And then you do t.column. Okay, and then we're going to do age, which is going to be an integer. I think I actually have to spell out integer, but let's just double check. Let me go back to the docs. And yeah, you're spelling out integer. So you can see you have things like default, values, whether it's nullable, all sorts of cool things you can do. Okay, and it's all here in the Buffalo docs. Integer, pass in another empty thing. Okay, cool. So then our up table is all fine. And again, our down migration is pretty straightforward. It just drops the table, so we don't have to do anything crazy there. Cool. Okay, now we just need to run our migration up. Okay, this is all just going to be about fizz. So this just shows you all the fizz commands. So let me go back to migrations. I'm pretty sure it's just basically buffalo pop migrate up or something like that. So we have the migration already. So we want to run the migration. Here we go. So to migrate up. Once migrations have been created, they can be run with either of the following commands. Okay, so we can just do that. Buffalo pop migrate would be. So again, anytime you see soda, it's buffalo pop. So in that case, now that migration file is up, I can do this. Buffalo migrate. Oh, oops, wrong term. Buffalo pop migrate. There, it's going to do the migration. Let's see what it does. Info created people. Good. Successfully applied one migration. So we do now have a people table. Nice. Okay, so good. We've added that to the table. And then here's like an SQL schema, so that way we have it to refer to. Okay, if we need to recreate the table again, or we want to understand what basically what it did. Okay. Cool. And there we go. We've created a model, which is person. We created the model basically the struct, which is what's in our models file. That's going to be how we're going to interact with it in our code. Okay. Again, this is all part of the package models. Okay, and yeah, so we're pretty good there. And we have all these extra functions to validate and all sorts of cool stuff that it just brings you out of the box. Probably not gonna play around with that much, but again, the idea is that we have two types now. We have a individual struct that's a person that shows what an individual person looks like, and then we have a type called people that is multiple persons. Okay, and I do find it neat that it just kind of knew that people was the plural instead of just doing like adding an S at persons. So good on you, Go. And yeah, and then we migrated, so it added it to the database, which was successful. And yeah, so we're good. We are good. And we will work more on other things in the next video.